In this lesson, we will write linear functions. A linear function is just like a linear equation. So it's really important that you remember that a linear equation is y equals mx plus b. In each example, if you find the b, or the beginning, or the y-intercept, and the m, the movement, or the slope, then you will know what the linear function equation is. Let's get started. Okay, in our first example, we're going to use this graph to write a linear function that relates y to x, okay? Here is the y-axis, here is the x-axis. So to write this linear function, the first thing we need to identify is the y-intercept. Where is the beginning, okay? And we can see that this point right here is where this line would cross the y-intercept. So this is going to be our b, okay? So now that we know our b, the next thing to do is to figure out the m, okay? The m is the movement or the slope. Remember that slope is rise over run. So you could just pick any 2 points. You could pick these two here, or these two, or these two. It doesn't matter. Pick any 2 points, and we're going to examine the rise over the run, okay? So let's pick these two. From here to there, the rise goes down 1, and then the run is over 2 in the positive direction. So the slope for that is going to be -1/2. Right, now that we know the b is -1 and the slope is -1/2, now we can write our linear function. And that's going to be y equals -1/2 x minus 1. Okay, here's another example. Same instruction, but instead of a graph, this time we're working with a table, okay? So we're going to use this table to write a linear function that relates y to x. Same exact practice. We need to find the b, or the beginning, or the y-intercept, and we need to find the m, okay? So first, let's start with the b, all right? The y-intercept is when x is 0, right? And then y is a number. That's the point that's going to cross the y-axis. And if we're looking at all the data on this table, right over here is where x is 0, okay? So 3 is going to be the y-intercept. So this is the very important point that we're going to look for to find that b, the beginning, okay? So the b is 3. All right, now that we know what the b is, let's find the slope, or the m, okay? So remember, it's rise over run. This time we don't have a graph to look at. We don't have the line to track rise over run. So we're going to use 2 points, and we can use any 2 points that we want. I'm going to pick small numbers. It's just easier that way. So I'm going to pick this point and this point. And I'm going to set up the equation, rise over run, which is y minus y over x minus x, okay? So let's go ahead and set that up. Let's use this as our first y. So 5 minus 3, okay, over, and since we started here, we have to use this x first. -1 minus 0, all right? So let's process that. 5 minus 3 is 2, and -1 over 0 is, -1 minus 0 is -1. And so 2 divided by -1 is just -2. Okay, so now that I have my m and my b, I can write my linear function, all right? And that's going to be y equals -2x plus 3. Okay, for our next example, they have given us a table, and the instructions say that the table shows the height in thousands of feet of a surveillance camera dropped from a height of 65,000 feet. Okay, so I guess we have a surveillance camera, and it's been dropped from 65,000 feet, so probably from an airplane. And as the minutes go by, you can see that this surveillance camera is getting lower and lower, okay? So what do they want us to do? They want us to write a linear function, okay, that relates y to x, and then they want to know what do the slope and the y-intercept represent, okay? And then in this part, they want us to graph the linear function. So let's get started. All right, in order to find the linear function, we need to find the m and the b. Okay, let's start with the b. Is there a place where x is 0? Yes, x is at 0 minutes. the drone, the surveillance camera, why did I say drone, is 65,000 feet in the air. So 65 is going to be our beginning, okay? So now let's find the m, and to find the m, since we don't have a graph, we're going to use the formula. So y minus y over x minus x, and we're going to pick 2 points. I like to pick the 2 smallest points, okay, with the smallest numbers. And let's go start with this, 65 minus 60 over x minus x, 0 minus 10. All right, so 65 minus 60 is 5, 0 minus 10 is negative 10. So 5 divided by negative 10 simplifies to negative 1/2. So our slope is negative 1/2. So now that we have m and b, we can write our linear function, and it's going to be y equals negative 1/2 x plus 65. So now let's answer that other question. What do the slope and the y-intercept represent? Okay, so we know that the y-intercept represents the beginning height. So the surveillance camera was 65,000 feet at the very beginning. That's what that represents. Now the slope is negative 1/2. And remember, we're dealing with thousands of feet, okay? So it is falling at, what's half of 1,500? So it's falling at 500 feet every minute, because x represents minutes. So every minute, every time we add a minute, it's going to fall 500 feet, okay? So that's what it represents. Now we're going to graph the linear function. So let's go ahead and draw the x and the y axis, and let's go ahead and write the numbers that each line represents. So the minutes will count by 10. So on the x-axis, let's go 0, 10, 20, 30. And then the height in thousands of feet is the y-axis. Let's also count by 10 all the way up to 70. Okay, so to graph this, I only need 2 points. I could either use my formula or I could use the table. I'm just going to use the table since the table is there with the numbers. So my y-intercept is going to be 65, because at when x is 0, y is 65. So here is x is 0. 65 is between 60 and 70, so I'm going to put my dot right there. Okay, and then I need one more dot to connect lines, right? So I'm going to use this next one. So at 10 minutes, it is 60, so 10 and 60 right there. 10 and 60, and then I just need to connect those dots. And that is what the line will look like. And let's see how accurate my line was, okay? At 20 minutes, it should be 55, 20, 55. Wow, that's pretty darn accurate. And at 30, 50, 30. Oh, got it. All right, so my line skills were good today. All right, so that is how you graph the linear function. Okay, in this last example, we are going to, this is actually number 3 in your homework, so when you get to number 3, if you get confused, make sure you look at this video again, okay? We're going to write a function that relates y to x, and so we're going to use this table, and this table actually represents a pattern in geometry, okay? Then we're going to answer the question, what do the variables x and y represent? All right, so you can see that on this table, it's not obvious where x is 0. So we're going to use the pattern to find out what is y when x is 0, okay? So let's go ahead and follow the pattern. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's just write 0 right there, okay? And then we have 5 pi, 4 pi, 3 pi, 2 pi. This is 1 pi, and then if we take one more pi away, we have 0 pi, which is just 0. Okay, so we know that the b, or the beginning of this pattern, is when x is 0, y is also 0. All right, so b is 0. Now let's find m. All right, since we're not sure, we don't have a graph to find rise over run, we're going to pick 2 points. Let's just pick this one and this one. Let's pick the bigger ones this time. And we are going to set up the formula y minus y over x minus x. And this y is 5 pi, minus 4 pi, okay? And that's all over, and since we started with 5 pi, let's go to 5 minus 4, all right? So 5 pi minus 4 pi is 1 pi, and then 5 minus 4 is 1. And pi divided by 1 is just pi, so m is pi. So now we have our b and we have our m. We can substitute it into this formula, y equals mx plus b, and m is just pi, and b is 0. So we actually don't need to write the 0. So then the function is just going to be y equals pi times x. All right, now what do the variables x and y represent? Okay, so x is right here, and we can see that it's this red line, which is the diameter of a circle. So x represents the diameter. Well, how about y? So we can see that whatever the diameter is, x, we're multiplying it by pi. So diameter times pi each time, right? And we know that diameter times pi is the circumference of the circle. So y represents the circumference of the circle. Okay, so to summarize this lesson, basically you are having to write a function for every problem that you face, okay? And writing the function just means finding the y equals mx plus b formula, all right? So in order to do that, you are going to need to find m, find the slope, rise over run, okay? Or y minus y over x minus x. And then you're going to have to find b. B, remember, is the beginning of the story. We also call it the y-intercept. That's when x is 0 and whatever the y number that matches that 0, all right? So if you find those two things, basically you'll be able to find the function of the example that you're looking at, and you'll be able to solve the problem. All right, go do your homework and let me know if you have any questions. Bye-bye.